Good day to all. I am Mark Zechariah Samuel from the juniors batch of Sunday School. I am 10 years old and I am here to talk about the 10 plagues of Egypt. It all started when the Lord spoke to Moses about the plans he had to rescue the Israelites from the Egyptians. God told Moses that he had made Moses like a god in Egypt and his brother Aaron like a prophet in Egypt. He told Moses that he was going to work wonders through him and that he was going to harden the Pharaoh's heart and finally bring the mighty acts of judgment by laying his hand upon Egypt. Then, when Moses and Aaron went to see the Pharaoh asked them to perform a miracle. Aaron took his staff and threw it before the Pharaoh, as the Lord had said. The staff turned into a snake, but the Pharaoh's magicians were able to replicate the same using their secret arts. But Aaron's staff swallowed up their staffs. The Pharaoh's heart was hardened. Then Lord spoke to Moses and asked him to confront the Pharaoh on the banks of the river Nile. And thus began the first plague. When Moses struck the water of the river Nile with his staff, it turned into blood. And Aaron did the same with other water bodies. The magicians were also able to replicate it, but with their secret arts. All the fish died, and there was a very bad smell. But the people dug holes around the Nile river and created drinking water for themselves. The Pharaoh's heart was hardened. 7 days after the Nile turned into blood, the Lord spoke to Moses and asked him to warn the Pharaoh about the plague of frogs. The Pharaoh didn't listen, and thus began the plague of frogs. Aaron stretched his staff over the streams, canals, and ponds, and all the frogs came onto the land. Pharaoh summoned Moses and asked Moses to pray to God, telling him that he would let the Israelites go. Moses went and prayed to God. All the frogs died and were piled in heaps. The Pharaoh's heart was hardened. Then the Lord said to Moses to tell Aaron to strike the dust of the ground, and thus began the plague of gnats. The magicians could not do the same using the secret arts. They said to the Pharaoh that it was a finger of God. The Pharaoh's heart was hardened. Then the Lord said to Moses to warn the Pharaoh when he goes to the river about the plague of flies. And thus began the plague of flies. There was no flies in the land of Goshen where the Israelites lived, whereas Egypt was filled with flies. Pharaoh summoned Moses and asked Moses to pray to God, telling him that he would let the Israelites go again. Moses went and prayed to God. All the flies left. The Pharaoh's heart was hardened. The Lord spoke to Moses and asked him to warn the Pharaoh about the plague on the livestock, which would happen in the next day. And thus began the plague on the livestock. All the livestock of Egypt got diseased and died, whereas not even one of the animals of the Israelites died. The Pharaoh's heart was hardened. The Lord said to Moses and Aaron to take handfuls of salt from the furnace and have Moses toss it into the air in the presence of the Pharaoh. And thus began the plague of boils. All the people and the animal throughout the land had a breakout of boils. The magicians could not stand in front of Moses because of the boils they had. The Pharaoh's heart was hardened. Then the Lord asked Moses to go early in the morning to warn the Pharaoh about the plague of hail. And thus began the plague of hail. All the officials of the Pharaoh who feared God took the slaves and livestock in. But whoever ignored left their slaves and livestock in the field, and whatever was left outside died. The Pharaoh summoned Moses and said that he had sinned. He would let the people go if Moses would pray and make the hail stop. And Moses prayed. The Pharaoh's heart was hardened. Then the Lord asked Moses to warn the Pharaoh about the plague of locusts. The Pharaoh said that he would only let the men go, and thus began the plague of locusts. Moses stretched his hand, and the east wind blew, bringing the locusts that invaded all Egypt. The Pharaoh summoned Moses and said that he has sinned. He said that he would let the people go if Moses would pray and stop the locusts. And Moses prayed. The Lord changed the wind, and the locusts were carried into the Red Sea. The Pharaoh's heart was hardened. The Lord said to Moses, "Stretch out your hand to the sky," and thus began a plague of darkness that could be felt. Darkness covered Egypt for 3 days. Pharaoh summoned Moses and said that he would let the people go, but not the livestock. But Moses did not agree. The Pharaoh's heart was hardened. He said, "Get out of my sight. The day you see me again, you will die." Then the Lord said to Moses, "There will be one last plague." Thus began the last plague, which was the death of the firstborns. All the firstborns, from those of the pharaohs to the prisoners to the livestock, all died. During the night, the Pharaoh summoned Moses and said, "Go worship the Lord as you have requested. Take the livestock and herds. Also bless me." And thus began the journey of the Israelites out of Egypt. Thank you. This story